Hi, everyone. This is Andres Pone, and welcome to AdvisorDrive, where we interview Canada's top advisors and find out what drives them. Today, I am very fortunate and lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm actually fortunate as well to be here today with Trevor Parry, lawyer and tax strategist. Trevor, how are you doing?
Andres, good to talk to you again.
You're always well dressed, and today's
Except
no
when I
exception.
except when I'm not. My wife will tell you when I am not in this. It's rugby shirts and camouflage or something that I'm not allowed to wear in public.
Now, have you noticed? I don't know if you've noticed. I need to lean back a bit, but I am actually wearing, in your honor, I'm sitting here in my living room. I'm wearing a dinner jacket today.
Oh, there you go.
Uh, I got it recently for an event. Little built-in pocket square there, and I'll just show off the interior as well. I think it's pretty
Very
snazzy.
nice.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I'm jazzed. Tell us about your outfit and where do you get your clothes? Like it's not a you're not.
all over the place.
Yeah.
I've just bought some from, I can't even remember the name of the company, but they make suits
Mm,
for my friend Kim Moody in Calgary and Jordan Peterson. And Kim and I have an ongoing fashion war. He loves checks and I love
right.
pinstripes. I tell
Right.
people it's my British banker suit, or if I'm in Les Belles Provence, it's my Jacques Parizeau outfit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll buy them all over the place. I recently bought a tweed suit uh,
Mm,
to fulfill my Downton Abbey ambitions. My wife said when I wear it, "Are you going hunting with the king?"
right.
So I like, I'm a self-confessed and celebrated curmudgeon. So I think suits are critical. Wearing a tie is critical. Well, I mean, I'm definitely not in the mainstream on that, but that's okay. I like being a minority on a lot of things.
And how does I know that the clothing is really a part of your brand. How has it served you well?
It goes to the central issue of client respect and gravitas, and it goes
Yeah.
back to what my dad taught me. My father was a headhunter, so an HR recruiter for years, and he always said, "You dress to impress. You always put the best possible image forward." So, I'll do it. I like three-piece suits. I have a couple of double-breasted ones and things like that, but I don't show up to a meeting in anything other than this unless I am distinctly told. I've done a couple of agricultural meetings where they said don't show up in a suit, and that's fine. I
Yeah.
have the appropriate hat to wear, and that's fine. But no, it's about gravitas. It's supreme respect for yourself and the client and the process that you engage in with all of the constituent members of that advisory team.
Now the concept of gravitas is very important to you, and tell us a bit about where that comes from originally, and when you became inspired by that idea.
Well, it's a Roman term, and it goes to just utmost how you carry yourself. Respect for yourself, for who you're working with, for the concepts of citizenship, all of that kind of stuff. Actually, I had a friend who published a magazine for a few years called Gravitas that I used to write for from time to time, mostly book reviews. I think there's still a few copies lying around, but it's just carrying yourself in an exemplary, mature fashion. I mean, I always joke and say I accept responsibility and not maturity, but when it comes to client matters, it's a fiduciary standard. It is understanding as much in and as much depth the client situation and bringing
Mm,
seriousness to bear in defense of clients' interests.
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. The clothing certainly conveys that.
I can
So
also put a handgun in here. Just kidding.
that's very handy.
Yep.
Very handy.
These days.
Um, Yeah, I was in Texas over the Christmas holiday, and in the window there, uh, did some window shopping, and there were these purses for women, and there's a little sign next to them, and it said something like appropriate for concealed carry, something
Oh
like
yes.
that. So
Yep. Very popular
I
there.
didn't
That's
go
why.
look, but there's evidently a
Well,
pocket there that you can stick the gun in.
Well, that's the reason Texas has a lower crime rate than Chicago. So,
Wow. I was in this bar there, and a guy did walk in with he's very casually dressed, jeans and a jacket, and he had a gun on his hip, and I had never seen that
no,
before.
as Canadians, because I've seen that when we visit Wisconsin, because the wife's family's from there, and I remember being in a Starbucks and the guy had a Glock on his side, and Yeah, you're a little taken aback by it because you just don't see it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guy's going to be hyper trained on it. As I said, you've got more chance of getting killed or injured in big U.S. cities that have gun control. So New York,
Yeah.
Chicago, Washington. I mean, Chicago's at 800 murders a year.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah.
staggering.
Those are crazy, crazy numbers. Trevor, so let's talk for a couple minutes about what you do. Like, what do you do in let's say, a minute or less?
I would say I'm a facilitator as well as an execution guy. I get involved in various stages of sales and tax planning, regardless of complexity, with entrepreneurs and professionals. And what I do is I'll bring, in addition to myself, the appropriate experts to bear, working with the client's existing advisory group, so accountant, lawyer, financial advisor, to effect understandable tax solutions. Now, understandable is important because, as I tell people, look, it's tax. By its very nature, it's complex. It's never going to be other than that. But we can, with time, with communication, with hand holding, with dedication to all of those involved in the process, help people understand how tax works. So no, there's no such thing as a fast sale per se. It's consultative. It takes some time, but we're able to affect some wonderful tax results for people.
And what do your clients look like in terms of where are they? What sorts of things do they do? Where are you in term, along the high net worth scale?
All over the place. I mean, I work with a couple of billionaire families and then a lot in the nine-figure range and right down to folks who are aspiring. So I don't have a set client criteria. Coming out of the actuarial world, I did a lot of work with professional corporations, so doctors, dentists, accountants, lawyers, veterinarians, physiotherapists, things like that.
Mhm.
So they may be smaller at the outset. So we don't turn anyone away. It's nice to talk to people, and sometimes they decide, I'm not ready to undertake this kind of thing now, and they come back in a few years. Um, but the full breadth and width of the wealth spectrum. I mean, this government has created a new tax problem for everyone every single day. So I'm pretty busy talking to folks and walking them off the ledge and
Yeah.
assisting in a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's not just traditional planning. We've got people who have decided to get out of the country or they're here and we're going to return somewhere anyway. So we've got some departure planning stuff we're doing and all kinds of neat stuff. I call it, propeller head planning. I like the easy stuff too, but I'm very much involved in a chess game with the government. I enjoy that.
Yeah, so you're very social, and you also mentioned your background. You mentioned your actuarial background. Tell us a little bit about.
Well, I'm not an actuary. I'm a self-confessed enumerate. But for 12 years, I was honored and privileged to be the national sales director for an outfit called Gordon B. Lang and Associates, in which in 12 years, I ran across the country. I mean, everywhere in English Canada. My French is at best grade 10. If I drink, I think I'm grade 11, but it gets
Mm,
worse. And we specialized in a lot of building sort of financial boxes. So individual pension plans. I toot my own horn. We've done more than anybody in the country at about just north of 2,000. A lot of retirement compensation arrangements. I've done them for a number of players. My basement is bedecked with Le Bleu Blanc et Rouge signed jerseys because my hockey team is in Montreal, and I always gave them a discount if they signed a jersey for me. And then a lot of valuation work, a lot of stuff that's directly related to advanced insurance planning. So it gave me a very deep knowledge of product and strategy construction and reverence for those who can do math. I still have a lot of friends who are actuaries. It's a strong background, and before that, I was a financial advisor after I was called to the bar, and that gave you
mm,
some pretty good combat experience too.
yeah. So you are a diehard Montreal Canadiens fan, and you just said that you have some of the Canadiens as clients.
I've done some work for them, I guess. Yeah, in the past, haven't done any in the last
Yeah,
little while. I assume as they get better, because the rebuild is on, and we
yeah.
plan that. Unlike every year the Leaf fans drag out their lawn chairs, expecting a parade down Yonge Street. I'm assured it'll go down St. Catherine Street first, and I'm sure I'll be busy with the team then.
Oh, I love it. That's good. Now, you just said you like to talk to people. You do like to talk to people. You're a very social person. I'm just going to go out and say it that you have, in the eyes of some people, a brand that is perhaps, and you even refer to yourself as a curmudgeon, which is, the self-deprecation is obviously that's humor. That's being
Well, I'm a
that's
bald
having a
fat
little
man.
fun.
I have to laugh at that. So it's although I'm not as heavy as I was. I think when I was at Wood Gundy for 6 years, I think I tipped out at about 308 pounds, although I could press a fridge
Yeah,
over my head at that time. So
yeah.
you have to be self-deprecating. People who take themselves too serious, they're not for this business. They're not pro-client. I mean, there are too many narcissists in our world, and I'm not one of them. I mean, I'm good at what I do, uh, but I always thought of myself, and we've said it on the website. I'm a sergeant. I lead from the front. My concept of management is World War One. I'll go over the top of the trench first. Follow me. Don't get shot.
Mm. Well, I'm lucky that I work with a lot of really nice people, and you're one of them.
Thank you.
You're absolutely a very nice guy.
Well,
So
you're
if
very
anyone,
nice. My wife loves you, so there you go. You're one of my acceptable friends.
that's very nice. Oh, really?
Oh
Oh,
yes,
really?
yep,
Okay.
yeah.
Now I know why I got invited over.
You send wine. It's that's the critical elixir in a happy marriage and parenthood.
That's funny. You are one of the few people that phones me. There are only
Yep.
a few people that call me. You're one of them. It's fine. It's good. I pick it up.
We don't
Uh,
talk business. It's just,
That's
hey,
true.
how are you?
You actually call to say, "What are you doing this weekend? What are you
Yeah.
doing? And what's on today?" That sort of thing, and that's nice. I think that's maybe
And
a
it's that
lot
way.
better.
I have that relationship with some of my clients. Like certainly, it depends who the client is, right? Most of the time, the client is the advisor or the accountant, and I certainly talk to them about life and things like that. But
Mhm,
some of the end clients I've befriended over the years, I see them all the time.
mhm,
A lot of them, given what I'm doing, we sort of have the same ideological focus, so it's
mhm.
sing from the same hymnal. So there's a lot of folks who become friends over the years.
No one can ever accuse you, Trevor, of not having firm opinions on things, and
Oh, it's cost me millions of dollars having firm opinions.
well, hopefully it's made. I know it's made you some money too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the key message of your branding, which is Leviathan must be stopped. What is Leviathan? Where'd the idea come from, and what are you saying there?
Well, Leviathan is a biblical sea monster that consumes everything, and this was picked up in the 17th century writings of Thomas Hobbes, and his book Leviathan is probably you have Machiavelli before that, but one of the great seminal works of political philosophy. And the concept was that the individual would cede their right of freedom and free expression, free speech, all of this to the overarching state, which in return would protect them. So security over liberty. And
Hmm.
I think that is a dubious and specious argument, is a dangerous argument. But it's something that we are seeing and have seen certainly in the last generation in the West as becoming not political philosophy or science fiction, but becoming a reality. So my almost in the Catholic sense, they say holy orders. My religious calling is to slay Leviathan, on a day by day basis, on an individual case by individual case basis. There's simply no moral justification for the state to take more than half of what someone makes. We're not at war, and there is no great national emergency that demands this kind of thing. Though the federal government might tell you that there is, there simply isn't. um, we need to unlock freedom. We need to unlock initiative, aspirational thought, and action. Get back to some of the core principles that made Canada and the United States and Western civilization as successful as it has been. So, for me, as a historian, as a political philosopher, and as a tax lawyer, I take no prisoners. It's get in and slay Leviathan, and try to encourage as many people as possible to push back. I don't want to come across as a zealot. I'm not putting people in harm's way. I understand
Mhm.
the Income Tax Act and planning very well on a very prudent basis. But part of what I do is education. I try to, unlock that spirit that is in an entrepreneur for them to say, you know what, I don't have to pay this. I can prudently reduce my tax, particularly when we talk about, when they shuffle off the mortal coil. If they do nothing,
Mhm.
they're looking at, on average, a 45% tax bill. With my team, we're able to often get them down between 0 and 8% prudently, and again in a process-driven, understandable fashion.
So you're saying that between 0 and 8% of their estate will go to the government versus
Well,
if they did nothing, it would be
the corporate wealth. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Full corporate
Sometimes
wealth.
zero. I mean, when we look at philanthropy,
Mhm.
and all of my work entails some degree of strategic philanthropy. I tell people, listen, I can't get rid of Justin Trudeau as your primary creditor with your children, but I can do it with a charity. So
Mhm.
it's time to give back. It's not just the right thing to do as a citizen, as a human being, but it's smart tax planning.
What specifically is strategic philanthropy? What exactly is the mechanism? You're being philanthropic. You're leaving money to a cause of your choice, and what is the benefit to you of that other than the
Well, it's also
legacy?
it's tax driven giving. So when you sit down with an organization or a potential donor and say, listen, um, is are there any organizations that are near and dear to your heart? They always will say, yes, it's this and that, and maybe we can leave $5,000 or $10,000 to this organization or this, benevolent fund or something like that. When we build in what the force multiplier is of making it a tax strategy, whether that's gifting shares of a private corporation or marketable securities or utilizing an insurance concept, then we start seeing the ability to donate hundreds of thousands or millions or tens of millions. I mean, the thing that PK Subban did with the Montreal Children's
Right.
Hospital, I can build that transaction in my sleep, and it doesn't require the client to write a massive check. Yes, there's going to be a contribution, but it depends when they want the tax relief. Do they want to see it while they're alive? Is it done as a bequest when they die? We're simply able to. It's the last real great frontier in tax planning, and people of all means should be considering it because there are simply always better alternatives uh, when it comes from your choice to gift to rather than having the government abscond with your money and spend it on
Mhm.
nefarious projects.
So, what exactly in a nutshell, what did PK Subban do? What did he accomplish there, and what was the
What I
mechanism?
think he
Yeah.
did, again, I'm pretty sure, is it was a gift of a life of insurance policy.
Okay.
And so he would have funded that whether it was financed or not. And that will go to the hospital at the appropriate time, generating tax relief for him, but also a very large gift for that hospital when he finally passes away. So, and we're
Okay.
doing that all the time. When we have a business sale, when we're looking at a passive investment holdco after the sale, sitting down and again talking to the family unit, and that's critical communication, getting everyone on the same page, saying, okay, here's what we want to do, here's what's possible, can we get
Mhm.
consensus on this, and then building that into the overall plan.
And the amount there was, I don't know,
It was 7 or 8 million bucks,
yeah,
I think. Yeah,
yeah, that's a lot of money.
yeah,
Um,
but doable.
yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be PK to do it.
Mhm.
Most entrepreneurs can do that. Maybe it's not 7 million bucks, but 2 million is very doable.
Right.
10 million is doable. It's, most of the time when you're getting your name on the side of a building, it's not through writing a check. It's done through strategy. I mean, yes, money is exchanged and all that kind of things happen, but that's strategic philanthropy.
Okay. Thank you. Let's talk about you as an advisor now. So, for the advisors watching this, a very basic question that every advisor wants to work on this: how do you get referrals?
I'm an advisor to advisors. So I would say about half of my business, my case work comes from existing financial advisors who simply understand they have the client but don't have the skill set or the experience to be able to go out and accomplish by themselves
Hmm.
these strategies and implementation of them. The other half comes from fellow professionals, so lawyers and accountants that I've been working with across the country. I mean, I'm licensed right across the country to do this. So I am working with accounting offices of various size, law firms of various size from coast to coast.
So they are looking for a tax specialist,
Hmm.
and that's you.
And,
And
yeah,
they
and
might have a
I'll
roster of services, but they're not going to have deep knowledge like you
true,
do.
and then
Specialized.
Anders, I'll bring in if necessary if it's a real particular niche area. I mean, I know my Rolodex, and there I am dating myself. I should say database is pretty extensive. So I've worked with experts across the country, both in English and French. My French is brutal, as I said, but
Yeah.
I'm capable of working in Quebec, licensed there. I just got licensed for the Northwest Territories, so I'm looking forward to
Oh wow.
traveling up there at some point
Yeah.
and seeing what folks are doing. It's fun. I mean, before the kids arrived, I was 80 flights a year and right across the country. And I'll tell you, some cities that are fun and some that are not. But it was a great experience. I don't think She Who Must Be Obeyed would ever let me go back to that kind of traveling. Quite frankly, I wouldn't want to do it. But it's the ability to work with people across the country. I'm not, though I'm located 75 kilometers west of Toronto. I'm very careful to tell
Mhm.
people I'm not an Eastern bastard or a Upper Canadian or whatever they want to call us.
Yeah.
I have sensibilities and sympathies with everybody across the country. My family ran down the 401 with the rest of the business community from Montreal in the 60s and 70s.
Hmm.
I lived in Western Canada. I have a strong affinity for what the folks in Western Canada are going through. So I've got a pretty good sympathy and understanding of the depth of the Canadian experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I've been around as much as you have, but growing up in a military family, my dad was in the Air Force, and we moved around a lot, and
Yeah.
I think that's given me uh, a reasonably broad perspective on the country, and so I'm not just a center of the universe Toronto guy.
Military background is fantastic. I wish, we would consider that for our country. I'm not against 2 years of mandatory national service.
Mm,
I
mm,
think it would clear up a lot of our problem. I mucked around in the reserves back in the 80s, guarding base Borden with my FN
mm,
and my steel helmet, and
mhm.
actually almost went back into the military in 1994 after I finished my first law degree. I was going to go to RMC for the Master of War Studies program, and
Uh,
probably would have gone reg force, and who knows where I would be today. But some things aren't not meant to happen. But my knowledge of military history is pretty extensive. It's I know the area well, and it charts a
mhm.
lot of how I approach things from a strategy perspective, from a discipline perspective, and we both have strong reverence for those who have served in the military.
Yes, of course. You quote Sun Tzu. You quote Napoleon Bonaparte.
Wellington
Military.
on certain days. Oh yeah, Nelson.
Right.
All of them. I mean, I enjoy reading history. I still do, and I'll just move around from era to era. But
Hmm.
I mean, this room. I had my daughter count the other day how many books were in here, and there's about 2,500 of them. So
That's a
it's like
great way to keep a young
yeah, oh yeah,
child busy.
and it's one day hopefully they'll read them. But it's a curmudgeon's office, right? It's full of books stacked everywhere, and
How
you
many
know.
books a year are you reading these days?
I used to do 100 or so. I'm probably 60.
That's a
And then
lot. That's a
talking
lot.
books when I'm driving,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
are fine. I drove down to Kingston the other day and got
Yeah.
5 or 6 hours of a talking book in. So better
Uh-huh.
way than, I listen to music too, but,
Yeah.
and a lot of telephone calls. I live on my cell phone, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's nice. Now we've got about 5 minutes left, a little under 5 minutes. So let's focus on ideas that you can share with other advisors. So we've talked about referrals. Let me ask this question. What are the two or three things, if there are them, that you would tell any advisor really hoping to move up into the, I would call it really the super elite market, that you've said you got a range of clients, but at the high end it's a very high. So what would be your top tips for
Well,
someone who wants to do that?
understand your strengths, but most important, your limitations. Um, years ago when I was at Wood Gundy, I used to teach in their training program, and I would hand out Rudyard Kipling's "If," and the most important line in that poem is if you can walk with kings and keep the common touch. So
Mm,
not everyone is going to get into the ultra high net worth market. I've seen guys do it just by sheer tenacity and charm, and then they'll bring in guys like me, who I think I'm charming, but
mm,
I come in as the subject matter or the strategy expert
mhm.
and build the stuff, and I've got the white beard and all that kind of stuff. But don't take yourself so seriously, because that in this business it's full of narcissists, and that's a quick way to be out of clients' favor.
Now, what do you
Uh,
mean take yourself too seriously? How would
Oh,
that
too many.
come off?
Some of them. Some of the advisors I run into are absolutely that. They're narcissists and stuffed shirts. In the insurance business, as I've always said, there are too many masters of financial alchemy who will use a spreadsheet and some degree of charm to derive fantastic commissions, but not necessarily achieve what the client goals are. Uh,
Mhm,
the insurance industry, as much as I'm in it, it is a deserving of a regulatory enema like nothing else. And now they're doing that on the security side as well. But you run into people who simply take themselves too seriously. Have This is why I like studying history. It makes you understand you're merely one small cog in the great stopwatch of history.
mhm,
And hopefully, read some philosophy. People don't do that anymore. I mean,
mm,
the current moral conundrum that we face in the West is because people don't read philosophy. They don't understand the underpinnings of what made this society great, of modern or of liberalism, small L liberalism. They don't embrace those things, and that's why I'm very concerned about where we're going with society. It's one of the reasons that I ran successfully and am now up for re-election for bencher from the Law Society of Ontario, because I'm very committed to the concepts of liberty and free speech. And in my humble opinion, that organization hath lost its way.
mhm,
Um, so we're seeing this; it's pervasive. And some days I feel like Lot. Some days I don't. That's why there's wine. But it's a challenge, not just personally but professionally. We see this, all the time. And when I talk to clients, they look and see their life's work and they say, "What was it for?" And they say, "I don't want to hand this over or
mhm,
most of it over to a government of various levels that has nothing in common with what I believe and is going to squander the money." So I am for freedom of action, freedom of speech, allowing that person to, in their lifetime and thereafter, very much decide what the fruits of their labor are dedicated to.